Hey everyone, welcome back to Dating Decoded. I'm Mia, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Jake to dig into the science behind modern romance.
Hey there, and today we're tackling a topic that, honestly, as a guy, I'm both excited and terrified to discuss. We're diving deep into what women actually find attractive in men, and Mia's been warning me all week that some of these research findings are gonna sting.
Well, I wouldn't say they're gonna sting, more like provide some brutal honesty. Look, we've all heard the conventional wisdom about what women want, right? Personality over looks, emotional connection, all that. But when researchers actually started studying what happens when women swipe, when they choose, when they date, the picture gets a lot more complicated.
Okay, complicated how? Because I feel like every dating article I've ever read tells guys to just be yourself and focus on your personality. Are you telling me that's not actually what's happening?
Well, here's the thing. There's this fascinating 2025 study that looked at actual swiping behavior on dating apps. Not what people say they want, but what they actually do. And Jake, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off here. Physical attractiveness had between 7 to 20 times more impact on getting matches than things like intelligence, job status, or personality traits listed in bios.
7 to 20 times. That's not a slight preference, that's total domination. But wait, I thought we were always told that men are the shallow ones and women care more about personality and stability and all that stuff.
Right? That's what I thought too, but here's where it gets really interesting. The study actually found that women and men showed almost identical emphasis on physical appearance when it comes to that initial swipe. So all those evolutionary psychology theories about men being visual and women being more focused on resources, at least in the dating app world, they just don't hold up.
Okay, so we're all equally shallow? I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. But hold on, if everyone's focused on looks, how does anyone ever get matched? Like, there can't be that many super attractive people out there.
Well, that's where things get really brutal for guys. Women are incredibly selective, and I mean incredibly. The research shows women only swipe right on about 30% of profiles they see. Men, much higher rates. So it's not just that everyone's focused on looks, it's that women have become these gatekeepers who are filtering out the majority of options right from the start.
30%. Jesus, so 7 out of 10 guys are getting rejected before women even read their bio or see what they're about. That's actually kind of devastating when you think about it.
And it gets worse. Brace yourself for this one. Only 1 in 100 male profiles gets liked by more than 80% of women. 1%, Jake. That means there's this tiny elite of guys who are just cleaning up while everyone else is fighting over scraps.
1%? So it's like the dating app equivalent of wealth inequality. There's this tiny group of super attractive guys who are getting the vast majority of matches, and the rest of us are, what, just screwed?
Okay. Before you spiral into complete despair, this is all about that initial swipe, right? Dating apps reduce people to a few photos and some text. But here's the encouraging part. Once you get past that brutal initial filter, completely different traits start mattering. When women are thinking about actual relationships, not just hookups, the game changes entirely.
Okay, good, because I was starting to think I should just give up and become a monk. So what changes? What do women actually want when they're thinking long-term?
So this is where it gets more hopeful for guys like you. Match's latest Singles in America survey found that 64% of women are specifically looking for committed relationships, not casual dating. And when they're thinking long-term, kindness and emotional availability become the top priorities. Physical attraction might get you in the door, but these other traits are what keep you there.
Okay, that actually makes me feel a lot better because I can work on being kinder and more emotionally available, right? That's not something I'm born with or without. But what does emotional availability even mean in practice? Because I hear that term all the time, but I'm never really sure what women mean by it.
Great question. So emotional availability isn't just about being willing to talk about feelings. It's more about being present and responsive, Like when she tells you about her day, you're not immediately trying to fix her problems or give advice. You're actually listening and responding to how she feels about what happened. It's about being curious about her inner world, not just her exterior life.
Oh, God, I totally do that thing where I try to fix everything. Like, she'll tell me her boss was being a jerk, and I'll immediately start strategizing about how she should handle it, when maybe she just wants me to say, that sucks, your boss is an idiot.
Exactly. Sometimes "that sucks, your boss is an idiot" is the perfect response. You're validating her experience and showing you're on her team. The advice can come later if she asks for it. But emotional availability also means being open about your own feelings, not just being a good listener. Women want partners who can be vulnerable, who don't shut down when things get emotionally complex.
That makes sense, though I'll admit the vulnerable thing is scary. But what about humor? Because everyone always says women love funny guys, but then I see guys trying way too hard to be comedians and it just comes off as desperate. What does good humor actually look like in dating?
Oh, humor is huge. Recent surveys specifically started tracking playful, fun-loving, and sense of humor as top traits women seek. But you're right about the difference between being genuinely funny and being that try-hard guy. Good humor in dating is more about playfulness and not taking yourself too seriously. It's about finding joy in everyday moments, not performing stand-up comedy.
Okay, but can you give me some examples? Because I feel like I understand the concept, but I don't know what it looks like in practice. Like, what's the difference between charming humor and try-hard humor?
Sure. So charming humor might be you spill coffee on yourself during a date, and instead of getting flustered, you laugh and say something like, "Well, I guess I'm really making an impression, literally, on my shirt." It's self-deprecating but confident. Try-hard humor is more like constantly making jokes, interrupting conversations to drop one-liners, or worse, making jokes at other people's expense to seem clever.
Okay. So it's more about rolling with life's curveballs gracefully rather than being a human joke machine. That makes sense. But Mia, I have to ask about something that I know is going to be uncomfortable. Height. Because I swear I see must be over 6 feet unlike every other dating profile.
Yeah, I knew you'd bring this up. Okay, so there is research on this. A 2023 study found that 56% of women are less likely to date men who are significantly shorter than them. So it's a real preference for many women. I won't sugarcoat that. But notice the key word significantly shorter.
Significantly shorter. So what does that mean exactly? Like if I'm 5'9" and she's 5'6", am I good? Or are we talking about needing to be taller than her even when she's in heels?
The study didn't define the exact measurements, but I think most of this preference is about wanting the guy to be at least a few inches taller than them. The extreme must be 6 feet thing on apps is honestly kind of ridiculous when you consider that only about 15% of men are actually 6 feet or taller. But Jake, here's what's important to remember. Height is just one component of physical attractiveness, and physical attractiveness is just one part of the whole package.
Right. And I can't exactly make myself taller. So what are the parts of physical attractiveness that guys can actually work on? Because be more attractive is advice that sounds great, but doesn't tell me what to do when I wake up tomorrow morning.
Fitness is huge. Not necessarily being a bodybuilder, but being in decent shape shows self-care and discipline. Grooming is probably the biggest bang for your buck. Good haircut, clean facial hair, taking care of your skin. Style matters too. Clothes that fit well and show some personality. And posture. You'd be amazed how much more attractive, confident posture makes someone look. These are all things you can improve starting today.
Okay, that's actually really helpful because those are all actionable. Now, what about career stuff? Because I feel like there's this pressure to be super successful and ambitious, but then I also hear women say they don't care about money. What's the real story there?
It's complicated. So that same swiping study showed that job status and intelligence actually had much smaller impact than looks for getting initial matches. But when women are thinking about long-term relationships, ambition becomes much more important. A 2009 study found that women rated ambitious and good earning capacity way higher than men did for potential partners.
So it's like looks gets you the first date, but career and ambition determined if there's a second date and beyond. That actually makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint. They need to know you can provide stability.
Exactly. But here's where things get really interesting and sad. Respect and loyalty have become major differentiators instead of just, basic expectations. And I think this ties into some really sobering statistics about what women are experiencing in modern dating.
Sobering how? I mean, respect and loyalty should be basic, right? What's going on that makes these things special instead of standard?
Well, Pew Research found that 57% of women have experienced harassing behavior on dating apps. 57%, Jake. More than half of all women using these platforms have dealt with inappropriate messages, pushback when they reject someone, or worse. So when a guy actually respects boundaries and treats rejection gracefully, it genuinely stands out.
57%. That's awful. No wonder women are being so selective and cautious. I mean, if most women have had bad experiences, then every new guy they meet is potentially another problem until proven otherwise. That completely changes how I think about rejection on apps.
Exactly. And it gets worse. Tinder's 2024 research found that 94% of women find modern dating challenging. 94%. So women are dealing with harassment, an overwhelming number of options, ambiguous communication. It's no wonder they're prioritizing guys who demonstrate actual respect and reliability. Things like deleting dating apps when you become exclusive, which shouldn't be noteworthy, but apparently is.
94%. So basically, everyone is struggling with this issue. That actually makes me feel less alone in finding dating frustrating. But what does respectful behavior actually look like in practice? Because obviously I want to be one of the good guys, but sometimes I think guys genuinely don't know where the line is.
It's really about how you handle not getting what you want. If she doesn't respond to your message, you don't send follow-ups asking why. If she says she's not interested in a second date, you say, "Thanks for letting me know. I had a good time," and move on. No guilt trips, no arguments about why she should give you a chance, and definitely no switching from "you're amazing" to "you're a bitch" in the span of one message.
God, the fact that doesn't become hostile when rejected is now a selling point is depressing. But I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not that women's standards are impossibly high, it's that the dating environment has become so toxic that basic decency feels rare.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning that all of these preferences aren't universal. They vary by culture, race, personal experience. For example, research has found some interesting patterns around body type preferences and race. White women with curvier body types were found to be 7 times more likely to prefer Black men, possibly due to different cultural ideals of masculinity and attractiveness.
7 times more likely? That's a huge difference. It really shows how much culture and personal background influence what we find attractive. I guess it makes sense. We're all shaped by the media we consume, the communities we grow up in, our personal experiences.
Right, but it's important to acknowledge that not all cultural influences are neutral. OkCupid's data from 2014 showed some troubling racial biases. Black women were consistently rated as less attractive on average, which obviously reflects broader societal prejudices rather than any objective truth. Though interracial matching has been increasing over time, which is encouraging.
That's really important to point out. Dating preferences don't exist in a vacuum. They're influenced by societal biases, media representation, all sorts of factors that have nothing to do with individual people's actual worth or attractiveness. It's good that you mentioned that.
So Jake, after going through all this data, some of it pretty brutal, what are you taking away from this? If you had to give advice to a guy who's struggling with dating right now, what would you tell him based on what we've discussed?
Honestly, I'd say first, don't take the initial brutal numbers personally. Yes, physical attraction matters a lot initially, and yes, women are really selective on apps, but work on what you can control. Fitness, grooming, style, posture, those make a huge difference, and you can start improving them tomorrow. But more importantly, focus on the relationship stuff, being emotionally available, developing genuine humor that comes from not taking yourself too seriously, being respectful when things don't go your way. And honestly, maybe don't put all your eggs in the dating app basket. If apps are reducing you to a few photos where you can't showcase your personality, maybe that's not the best place for you to shine.
That's really good advice. I'd add that understanding the broader context helps too. When 94% of women find dating challenging and over half have experienced harassment, it's not about you personally when someone seems guarded or selective. It's about the environment we're all trying to navigate. So be patient, be kind, and be the guy who proves that not all men are the problem.
That really reframes everything, doesn't it? It's not women are impossible to please, it's dating has become really challenging for everyone, so let's make it a little less challenging by being decent human beings. I actually feel more hopeful after this conversation than I did going into it.
Me too. And I think that's the perfect place to wrap up today's deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the harsh realities of dating app dynamics to the traits that actually matter for long-term relationships. The key takeaway is that while the initial numbers are brutal, there's so much you can control and improve on.
Absolutely. And next week, we're flipping the script. We're going to talk about what men find most attractive in women. Mia, I have a feeling that conversation is going to be just as eye-opening and probably just as humbling for those of us who think we know what we want.
Oh, you have no idea. I've already been diving into that research, and let me just say, some of the findings about what men actually choose versus what they say they want are fascinating. There might be some uncomfortable truths for everyone involved.
Can't wait. And everyone, if you enjoyed today's episode, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. It really helps other people find the show. And honestly, we love hearing your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Dating is something we're all figuring out together.
Exactly. And if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, or if you have your own dating research finds to share, let us know. We're building a community here of people who want to understand relationships better through actual data, not just assumptions and stereotypes.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Mia. Thanks for listening to Dating Decoded, and we'll see you next week.